just to quickly give a brief introduction to myself, like what Paul was saying, I'm a counterpart with Paul, working around the enterprise customers. I just finished my last certification, so I'm fully AWS certified. Also a serverless SME. I like to dabble in my serverless technologies and help customers in terms of, whether it's going to be support issues or whether it's going to be architecture. So serverless is where my strengths and, my passion lies. Swinburne University graduate. I'm a big believer and an advocate for serverless and event-driven architecture. A bit about, personal stuff. I love go-karting, fast cars, and I really love coffee, to a point where I've actually got a nice barista style coffee machine at home and doing latte art and whatnot. So that's a little bit about me. I like to keep this session quite interactive. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask me. Just to quickly recap our agenda today, I'll do a quick level set. My camera's gone.
That's all right. Just for you, Robbie, we are going to be monitoring the chat, so you don't need to worry. If somebody asks anything on the chat, we will actually convey it to you right away. You just
perfect
on the workshop, okay?
Perfect, Dan. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. All right. So first of all, intro to SAM. What AWS SAM is. Then we'll build an API, just a REST API from scratch using AWS SAM. We'll extend that API to make it a little bit more helpful rather than, just a vanilla API. And we'll quickly build a CI/CD pipeline using AWS SAM, which is a fairly new preview feature. Without further ado, let's jump in. So I wanted to quickly ask the folks here today, who's actually used AWS SAM or serverless or any of the frameworks that's out there for you to help deploy, serverless applications?
Yeah, I definitely have. I really like working with SAM.
Awesome.
Aaron, Dahan have as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. So just a quick run through of AWS SAM. It stands for Serverless Application Model. It's got a nice little mascot there. So AWS SAM, in essence, is basically a framework for building serverless applications. So if you think about running, writing Lambda functions and, using Cloudformation as IAC, infrastructure as code, think about AWS SAM as a shorthand version or an extension of Cloudformation that will help you really quickly build applications using this framework. It is also open source, so you can actually do pull requests, create issues, and I'd actually advocate you doing that. If you have any issues or if you have any ideas about how to explore and extend SAM, you can certainly do that with our open source community. Serverless has a few resource types. I'll go through some of them today. Oh, Michael, you're a serverless framework guy. Okay, cool. That's good. So I guess serverless framework, I think Dahan also mentioned, the difference between SAM and serverless framework. I'm not fully across the serverless framework as I'd like to, but basically it is, again, a framework. It's very similar to AWS SAM. And then basically AWS SAM is managed by AWS. It's open source. So there's quite a bit of similarities.
There's a lot of synergy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the idea is if you're going to be building a serverless application, use a framework is basically my recommendation, whether it's going to be serverless or AWS SAM, whichever one you pick, just pick something that will make your life a little bit easier to build these applications. So today, what we're going to be building is a very simple vanilla API gateway with a Lambda function, and that's going to be backing into a DynamoDB, which is our data store. Love CDK. Yes, CDK is awesome. And there's synergy, like, connectivity between SAM and CDK as well. That's also a public preview. Cool. So if you wanted to build what I showed you here, it will look very similar to this if you use Cloudformation, which, Cloudformation is really good in the sense that it's quite flexible. It gives you quite a lot of flexibility in terms of what you want to do with it. However, you can see that it's fairly verbose, so you'll have to write quite a bit of code to get a application up and running. So that's where AWS SAM comes in. So if you look at the design before, you can actually run that same design using SAM template, and you can basically have this template run, which will be expanded into the Cloudformation that you saw before. So I'll run through that a little bit more in detail. So the transformation happens in line number 2, where it says AWS Serverless dash blah, blah, blah. So that basically tells Cloudformation that this is a SAM template and it needs to transform this SAM template into a Cloudformation template. So that is done via Cloudformation. So this is basically the starting point, and you can see there's a specific type here called AWS Serverless function. This is not a Cloudformation resource. However, it is a SAM specific resource. When Cloudformation sees this template, what it'll do is it'll actually create a Lambda function in the background. It'll extend it to a Lambda function in the background. You will also see here that there's no API gateway resource, and that's expanded via this event section. Basically, this event section tells you what kind of event sources will trigger the Lambda function. And in this situation, the event source is a type API, which will be basically going to be expanded into an API gateway with its own stage, with its own deployment, and everything else that comes with it. And underneath, you'll see, as AWS Serverless simple table, which is going to get expanded into a DynamoDB table. Cool. So with SAM, it's basically, I like to think of SAM as a 2-step process. So you've got the SAM template, which will basically expand into a Cloudformation template, which is what gets deployed into our environment. Now, the other part is the SAM CLI, which is kind of your tool that lets you really locally build, test, debug, and deploy applications using the SAM template. So you can actually create a local execution environment, like a Lambda emulated local execution environment, where you can actually really quickly iterate through your changes locally without any connections into the AWS cloud.
Anything yummy? Sorry? Yeah.
Was that a question?
Oh, sorry,
That
I
was someone.
didn't realize I wasn't on mute.
No, all good, all good. All right, no worries. So the latest change or a preview feature that came about with AWS SAM was the ability to create CI/CD pipelines. We'll go through that today. The other thing that is experimental at the moment, but it is really, really exciting, is SAM Accelerate, which will basically synchronize your changes that you're doing, locally with the AWS environment. Basically, what that means is you can change your code locally, and when you click on, when you actually save that, save the solution, what will happen is it'll actually use the APIs, the underlying APIs, the Lambda APIs, to zip up and deploy that change into your functions and your API gateways, which will make it really quick to deploy those changes into the cloud. So you can get some really quick feedback when you're developing your solution. So you don't have to necessarily work in the confines of a local environment, which is an emulated environment. You can actually do that connected to the AWS environment as well, which is going to be really exciting. I just can't wait to show you guys that. today it's mostly about the API creation, the expansion, and then CI/CD pipelines. If I have a little bit more time, I might actually take you through SAM Accelerate as well. Cool. So with SAM pipelines, what it does, it actually creates some resources in the background. It will basically create an IAM user. It'll create a few roles that will allow the solution or your CI/CD pipeline, or whichever technology that you use to deploy that into into your account using a CI/CD workflow. At launch, we had support for Jenkins, GitHub Actions, and GitLab pipelines. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but now we do also support AWS Code Pipeline as well, which is what we're going to be using today, because it's really easy to do it on the AWS environment, and you can use your Cloud9 environment to spin this up. So we'll go through that today. That's really about it. Any questions so far before we jump in? Hope I didn't take that long. Are we ready to go? All right. If you're ready to go, if you can quickly get onto the URL there. And then that will basically bring up your workshop. Let me try and yes. Go. Okay, is everyone here? Thanks, Paul. All right, so if everyone's here, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to walk through this workshop with you today. So we're going to be building the whole thing through. So I'm hoping you have either a pretty wide screen where you can bring this workshop on your left and have your Cloud9 environment on the right or whatever. But I'm just going to be going through the Cloud9 environment with you guys. So let me bring this up as well. All right, so basically what we're going to be doing is first we're going to be creating a Cloud9 environment. Everyone okay with the Cloud9 environment?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go and create, we're going to go through the setup. I'll just use the SAM workshop here. Please let me know if anybody, nice chips. Well done.
I'm not sure who that is that's making so much noise. Kelly.
It is the chips, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. It was a good snack, but we'll mute him for the rest of us because we're all getting hungry.
Oh yeah, now I got to go and get a packet of chips.
Sorry, guys. Just give me a quick second. My session has expired. Let's give it a bit of time. Okay, so let's create the Cloud9 environment first of all. Cloud9, if you haven't used it, it is our cloud-based IDE. So give it a name. Next step, nothing major. We'll create just a vanilla environment. And it'll give it a bit of time. So how is everyone doing? Okay so far. Any questions about AWS SAM? Anyone hasn't used AWS SAM?
So for AWS SAM, Robbie, we can still put the CloudFormation template, right? for example, things the SAM is not supporting?
Yeah, so anything that Cloudformation supports, you can run it via AWS SAM, because AWS SAM is basically a superset of Cloudformation. So if you don't have a resource that is not covered via AWS SAM, you can just use regular Cloudformation with your AWS SAM template. There's not much of a difference. Ultimately, it goes into Cloudformation. It'll expand the SAM specific resources to Cloudformation resources, and any other regular Cloudformation resource will be just a regular Cloudformation resource. So yeah, anything can be supported with Cloudformation. You can write it with SAM template as well.
There is one more thing.
Stringy.
Robbie, teacher, can you?
Doing good.
Sorry, Dan. There's some background noise coming
Yeah,
through.
yeah, there's some background. So the other thing, Robbie, is you mentioned some of the resources are not defined in the SAM itself. For example, API, gateway, URL, etc. How can we access those things?
I'm sorry, say that again, Dan.
So some of the, as you mentioned, like API is not defined explicitly on the SAM, but we need to access the URL, for example, or all other things in the other parts of the SAM framework, or maybe Cloudformation you added on top of the SAM template. So how do we get those resources? Are you going to cover that as well?
Yeah, let's go through the SAM template once we go through the creation process.
Excellent.
And we'll go through that part as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
No worries. Cool. So once we got the SAM template up and running, I'll do a bit of cleanup, get all of this out of the way. Okay, so the first part is the setup, and just check whether your SAM version is okay. You don't necessarily need to, do an upgrade or anything of the sort. It'll be, as long as you got 1.31.0, you should be okay. So I'll just quickly check whether that's the case on mine. I'm guessing it should be. And then I can skip to actually building an API. So first thing what I will do is I wanted to do a SAM init, which goes through the process of asking me the questions.
Yeah,
It's
the
interaction process.
So I'll get 100 here.
Cool. So I'll just go through the quick start for now, but basically you can use your own custom template as well. With SAM CLI, the templates are run using cookie cutter. So if you wanted to create your own custom template, you can certainly do that. But for this situation, I'm just going to be using the built-in ones.
I did not know actually ECR was supported in SAM. I haven't been initializing for a long time now.
Yeah. So SAM does support image container images as well. So this is a situation where you have packages that's beyond 256 megabytes, right? So if you got things like AIML packages or anything that's pretty hectic or heavy, you can start using container images as well. And AWS SAM supports uploading that.
Does it? Sorry, a quick question here. Does it support ECS or EKS deployment-wise? Because anyway, that's the question. Does it support deployment?
So the deployment is still to Lambda. It doesn't support running it into ECS or EKS. So Lambda supports container images. Basically what that means, it is a packaging mechanism, not necessarily running a container on Lambda. It's more of a packaging mechanism there.
I see. All right.
So if you wanted to package anything beyond 256 megabytes, you can't use a zip facility. You can basically use a Docker file. You can package the whole thing up and then upload it into Lambda, which will work within Lambda.
Okay.
Copilot might be something that would be worth looking into if you're looking for that. That's someone being silly.
Is somebody Zoom bombing? It's the same person logging in with different names. I've seen it before.
Oh, wow.
Copilot might be what you're interested in looking at, Dahan.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll check that, Paul.
Cool. So we'll just quickly run through some of these. So the runtime, as you know, you can use quite a few. Today, we're going to be using Node.js. And for the project name, I'm just going to call it API. What will happen then, it'll go through and get some of the templates that's available. Today, we'll be using the Hello World example. So I'm just going to pick number 1. So this is going through that interactive process. And once that's done, what will happen is that you'll see on the side, there's an API folder, which contains pretty much all of the artifacts that you need. All right, so let's go through some of those folders. First of all, I wanted to run through the template.yaml. So the template.yaml has the transform, like I mentioned before, which tells Cloudformation that this is a SAM template. And then you can see that there is a hello world function, which is the AWS serverless function. And once this is deployed, you'll see that the hello world function will be actually getting translated into a Lambda function. Also, like I mentioned before, there's an event section, which basically goes through the event sources. And you'll see that the type is an API. And Dan, you asked the question about how I can get the URL out of this event source. And that's through this function. Basically, it'll get the REST API, the subdomain out of this. And then you can use that and the region, and you can basically make up the API gateway URL.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Awesome. So either you can use an event source here, or you can basically run a separate function, separate API called API gateway. And you can basically say it's a AWS Serverless API. And then you can use that as a resource into your event. Like that. So you can certainly do that as well. So yeah, the documentation will help you in terms of what you can do with AWS SAM. But for us today, this is the easiest way to get started. So let's get on with it. We've got some hecklers today.
Kind of annoying. I'll just keep blocking as they come in.
Cool.
I thought it was soothing. It was like haunted house, like Halloween.
It's funny. All right, so
First time happening to us, I guess. Anyhow, sorry about it. Go ahead. That's
all right. All right, cool. So let's try and deploy this, shall we? So if I go to the API folder, I can just do a SAM build, which will build my solution. And you can see that it is actually doing the packing, doing NPM installs, cleaning everything up, and it's all ready to build. What I'm going to be doing now is I'm just going to do a SAM deploy guided, which will give me a interactive experience around about how I can deploy this across. So for the stack name, I'm just going to call it API, region the same, confirm changes. I don't want to confirm changes. It automatically go through it. Allow SAM CLI role creation. Yes, please. No authorization defined. Is this okay? I'm just going to say yes to this. Save arguments to the configuration file. Yes. And the configuration file is, I'll keep most of this into defaults for the moment. And now you'll see that the SAM CLI will basically deploy this across into your AWS environment. So it's firstly checking what kind of resources that needs to be deployed. And it's just going through the process at the moment. Okay. So if I open up another tab and look at Cloudformation, you can see there's going to be a new, let's wait for this to go through first of all. But once it actually starts, you can see that it's actually uploaded the template, uploaded the solution, the Lambda function, and it's now going through the creation of the stack. So you can see the function roles, the function, the deployment, the production stage, the REST API, all of this is now getting deployed into your environment. And all you had to do was just specify just technically that part. And you've got your Lambda function, your permissions, your policies, your API, all getting deployed. So hopefully now you get an idea as to how quickly you can start, building your serverless applications with AWS SAM. Yeah, and you can see now there's a stack getting created. So let's look at that stack as well. Now, if you look at the template section here, it'll show you what is getting deployed. But if you turn this on, you'll see this is the actual Cloudformation template that is getting deployed. Just imagine having to write all of this, just to bring up a simple, API. So that's basically the power of SAM. So hopefully, if anybody, anyone who hasn't run through AWS SAM, this is the reason why we advocate running and deploying serverless applications using AWS SAM. All right. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's throw this again. Any questions so far? Pretty quiet bunch. Cool. Awesome. So let's look at that, and you see that everything's created and updated. All right. So let's go and make some changes here. So if you look at the folder structure, you'll see there's a hello world folder here. That is our Lambda function. So if I look at the app.js file, this is essentially the Lambda function that got deployed into AWS. And you can see that it's got nothing really crazy here. You've got the hello world. Before I do that, let's go and check what the output of that is actually. So if I open this endpoint here, you'll see that I got my API up and running. There's a hello part to it. How do I get this off? Here we go. So I've got the message hello world coming back. So if I go back up here, here's my Lambda function. Now, let me just quickly change this to hello Melbourne meetup. Right? So I saved that. What I need to do then is basically save the file. You do a SAM build and SAM deploy. Basically, it'll start building up the Lambda function. and it'll deploy it again. So if I see here, it says hello world. By the time it actually does the build and the deployment, ooh,
Did you save?
I thought I did. Let's try again. Okay. This time it seemed to have worked because it said uploading to API. So you might not have saved the last time I did that. So you can see that it is actually modifying the function and the REST API. It's going through the update process. And in just a little bit, you'll see that it's changed. So the latest changes have gone into AWS. You've deployed it to AWS, and now you can see the endpoint now changed. Cool. All right, so that's all good. The next thing what I wanted to do is to actually add a data source. So you can see that we're slowly evolving this application. So
there's a question from Sidhar. Question is, where can I find the CloudFormation template generated by the SAM?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go into the template here, CloudFormation stack, you can see there's an API stack that got deployed, and you can see the generated stack here. So this is the SAM template that was deployed, and this is the generated CloudFormation stack.
So Ashley asks another question: can we hook those steps, build, deploy on-premise Jenkins pipeline?
Are we talking about the pipeline now?
No. If it's the on-premise Jenkins pipeline, can we integrate those steps of build and deploy? I believe Ashley was trying to ask.
Yep.
Into
absolutely
Jenkins.
Yeah, absolutely. So all we got to do is within the agent, you install SAM CLI, and then you can just run those commands, which will basically build up the story, and you can just deploy from there.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, so let's go through creating the template here. Sorry, the table. So I'm just going to copy and paste some code just to make it a little bit quicker. So first of all, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to add a serverless table, and it's going to be AWS Serverless Simple Table, which is again a SAM resource. And the property, I'm just going to give it a tag and a name and an API. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding a policy to the Lambda function, so it can actually start writing and reading to it. So over here, I've just added a policy for my function, which is a DynamoDB CRUD policy. This is also a SAM specific policy, which is going to get expanded to a proper, IAM policy. What I will then do is I'm going to add some environment variables so that, I just reference the table name here, so that, when I'm running my Lambda function across multiple environments, I can use different tables, even when I'm using the same account. All right, so that's all good. What I'm going to be doing then is I'm going to be going through and just close this off. Put this here. Okay, so I've made the changes. I'm going to be doing again SAM build and SAM deploy. Now, hopefully at this point in time, you'll see that my function role, there'll be a change to the function role. There'll be a DynamoDB table that's going to get created. Okay, so over here, you can see that there's a new DynamoDB table that's going to get created, a new IAM role, sorry, a modification to the IAM role, and the modification to the Lambda function and the REST API. All right, so while that's happening, we'll just go to the next step, which is to actually manipulate some data. All right, over here, what I'm going to be doing is I'll go to app.js while this is happening. I'll include some packages. So AWS already comes with, your Lambda, the runtime. So you don't necessarily have to include that across. But however, UUID is not something that's available there. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding that package UUID. So over here, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to go to the Hello World table. Sorry, a Hello World folder. And then I'm just going to run npm install. So that'll actually install the npm package on that folder. It'll add to the package.json file. You can see it here. Now that there's a dependency of UUID package for this solution. All right, so now that I've used the UUID, I need to put some, make some changes to my Lambda function.
Robbie?
Let's go. Sure.
2 questions. One is, do we need to run npm install every single time we change the package JSON, or will it automatically run it on deploy?
So you'll have to build your solution,
yes,
which will basically do the npm install and package everything up for you.
Perfect.
So you don't necessarily need to run npm install every time. I just ran npm install because I didn't want to bother, running, going into package JSON and putting in all of these things, because I couldn't be bothered running the checking the version numbers and everything else. Yeah.
The second question is, again, about dependencies. Does SAM support layers, Lambda layers?
Yeah, absolutely it does. Yes. Today, I'm not going to be going through Lambda layers, unfortunately, but SAM certainly does support Lambda layers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. So what I did here is I've just added some parameters, a table name coming from my environment variable. Remember how I added the environment variable? So that's coming from here. Just giving it a description, a timestamp, whatever. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm just putting that item into my DynamoDB table. So folks, this is just demonstration purposes only. I wouldn't want to create a DynamoDB table, a schema like this. That's another session altogether. So now that I've got the DynamoDB table, writing to the DynamoDB table, what I'll be doing is I'm just going to grab the response now, doing a pretty ugly scan here. Don't do this, don't do this at home or in production. And then what I'll be doing here is I'm just going to add the count. And that's it. So at the end, it'll just look like this. What we've done so far is we've got the table. We are writing to the table and reading from the table. So very simply, again, all we got to do is go back to our API folder and then do a SAM build, which you can see now it's doing an NPM install. So it's going into the package AWS SAM package here. It's building everything. You can see the hello world function. This is the one that is actually getting zipped up and deployed. Okay, so I'll just do a SAM deploy. And away we go. So if I look at here, this should technically change up. Let's have a look. So you can see there's a count now. Count is 1. If I refresh, now it'll go to the DynamoDB table, write a record, work out what the number of records are, and it'll just iterate through. So now we've just started, actually persisting some data in a DynamoDB table and pulling the information out. So this is very, very rudimentary example of how AWS SAM works, but hopefully you get the idea. All right. So the next step is to actually go through the CI/CD pipeline. So this is the new feature that was released. So let's go through that, how we would create a SAM pipeline here. All right, so what I'll do is I'll expand this again. All right. So first of all, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just issuing a command SAM pipeline init -- bootstrap. So you can run these two in isolation if you wanted to. Bootstrap basically sets everything up in the sense that it'll create the IAM users, it'll create the roles that's required. And one of the things that I didn't actually mention to you guys is that this pipeline, you can have it set up so that you've got 2 accounts. One is your dev account and the other one is your prod account. If you wanted to think about multi-account deployments, you can certainly do that using SAM pipelines as well. So I'll just use the AWS Quick Start Pipelines template at the moment. And you'll see that, like I mentioned before, you can actually deploy to either Jenkins or GitLab or GitHub Actions, or now you can do that with AWS Code Pipeline. So for today's session, let's use AWS Code Pipeline. Now, I've used a template that had 2 stages. If you wanted to use 3 stages, you can configure that using your own. So for today, we'll just keep to the defaults. So this is asking me, do you want to create these Bootstrap resources? I'll say yes. And then it asks me about the stage 1 setup. So for stage 1, I'm just going to call the stage name dev. I'm just going to use the default name profile. So when I selected default, it actually picked up my account ID with it as well. So for these ones, I'm just going to keep AP Southeast 2, IAM user, pipeline execution role. Please create all of these for me, and the Cloudformation execution role. If you have your execution roles, you can basically specify these things here. If not, SAM will help you create those. So here it's asking me whether there's any image type Lambda functions. And for this, it's a no. But if it did, it'll actually create the underlying ECR repository and everything else with it as well. All right.
Is this pipelines available to all of us now? Or is
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So if you update your CLI to 1.331,
okay.
it's actually available now.
Excellent. Thank you.
So proceed with the creation. Yes. So this will actually create the IAM user, the execution role, the Cloudformation execution role, and the artifact bucket. So think about it this way. It'll create two separate stages, the dev and the prod. You can have it running in the one account, or you can have it running in two accounts. And then if you want to have multiple stages, you can. If you wanted to expand it, you still can. Like, remember how I set up over here, I said, use AWS Quick Start pipeline templates. So I could have easily picked number 2, which is my own custom pipeline template as well. So you can certainly have the flexibility to basically do whatever you need. So we'll just wait for this to actually create the required resources. It'll take a little bit of time, so hopefully not too long. Ooh.
Oh, that happened. What is that?
That's pretty cool.
Okay. Right.
So weird.
Did you do it intentionally? Is it? I don't know.
That's not me.
Ah, okay.
So you can annotate. Oh, hello.
I think so.
Oh, that's me.
There you go. We discovered Zoom as well. Good.
There you go. That's pretty cool, actually.
Is that you're doing it in Zoom or in Cloud9?
No, I did it in Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom. Yeah, cool.
Right.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, so I'll go through these sections as well. Do you want to create the Bootstrap resource? Yes. So I'm just going to give stage name prod, default, and the region, we'll just keep to the defaults here, pipeline execution role, Cloudformation execution role. So this is basically doing my second stage. So I'm just going to go through the defaults here for now. Now it's asking me for a summary. Am I happy with it? I'll say yes. And then should we proceed with the creation? I'm just going to say yes to this. So now it'll create my stage 2, which is my prod stage with the execution roles and the artifact bucket. While that's going through, any questions come through at all? Who's actually running through this live with me?
I am.
Awesome, good, excellent.
Yep, I am.
Tori is doing it locally. He's not using Cloud9, I guess.
Nice, okay, cool. Yeah, you can certainly do this locally. Very cool. All right, so awesome. We'll just give it a couple more minutes until this happens. So yeah, I think the beauty of this is, you know, the developer productivity, the fact that you can really spin something up really quickly. And hopefully you don't have to do this every single time. So the bootstrapping part, you don't necessarily need to do it all the time. It's the next part that we will have to do for each new application that you would need to create. All right, so checking for existing change stages, I'm just going to be saying code commit today because it's easier to set up everything through AWS for this workshop. The code commit repository, I'm just going to call it API. We haven't created an API repository yet, but we're going to be doing that pretty shortly. Template file paths, yep. I'm just going to leave them all the same here. I'm just going to say my stage 1 should be dev. And it's asking me for a stack name for stage 1. So here I'm just going to be calling it API dev stack. Stage 2 is prod. And I'm going to call it API prod stack.
I wish I had this like a couple of months ago. I mean, being able to create different stages.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, I had to create. I don't want to even talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like it's all that heavy lifting that's been taken away from you, and also the fact that if you're working in a pretty constrained or environment, or you've got some compliance things that you're gonna really constrain yourself into, you could certainly do that as well.
Yeah,
So this is not.
Yeah, I've done all these things with bash scripts.
Yeah.
Changing the variable names in the bash scripts into templates, and oh my.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't even start.
That's it.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, that's it. So this is actually created the pipeline configuration files. If you look through on your left-hand side, you'll see the configuration files already created for you. I didn't have to write a single thing. So you can see the build commands, they're all here, the packaging. So that's all the build and package. If you look at deploy, you can see all of these things, available to you. All right. Cool. So let's actually create the repository now. So I'll quickly create a repository, AWS code commit, create repository. All right. So that'll create me a repository, a Git repository. I'm just going to set up the global first last at example.com. Why not? For the Git ignore, I'm just going to use the ignore the AWS SAM build folder, because that's going to get built every time. So that's done. I'll go back here. I'm going to create the first branch. The main branch. Cool. Add my files. Commit. And I've got the commit to my local repo. Next thing, what I'm going to be doing is I'm adding the remote. And that's it. Basically, the next step would be to push to my remote. So what we just did is create a local repository, created a remote repository in code commit, connected the two, and pushed the changes over to the remote repository. So if you go into your code commit So code commit is basically a Git repository, fully managed Git repository on AWS. So you don't necessarily need to use code commit. You can use GitHub, GitLab, whatever code repository that you need to work through. So I just created a API repository, and you can see all of my code changes are now here. All right. Cool, that's done. Now let's create the pipeline. So if you go into your CodePipline YAML, you'll see that the command that you have to run is already here. But for this workshop, I've just got the command on the post here anyway, so I'm just going to copy and paste it. So this will probably take about 5 minutes to deploy. This is going to create a full pipeline, a code pipeline, the build projects. It'll create the service role, the buckets, and the bucket policies, basically the whole thing from start to finish. So let's just wait for this to come through, and you'll see that code pipeline will be initialized for you. So for those who haven't used code pipeline, it is our fully managed code, pipeline for a lack of a better word. So if you look at code pipeline here, you can see that it is another fully managed service from AWS. It'll go through and sets up your pipeline here.
Robbie?
Yeah.
I would think this would be more automated with the GitLab because it has all the specific file the GitLab is looking. Would that be correct? There wouldn't be a code pipeline generate step, I believe, in GitLab.
So GitLab will have its own pipeline. Correct. So it is, again, a choice in this situation, whether to use code pipeline, or if you're using GitLab, you can use GitLab pipelines. If you're using GitHub, you can use GitHub Actions. If you're using Jenkins, you can use Jenkins pipelines. So in this situation, for this workshop, I've used code pipeline because it makes it easy for us to go through the workshop. But ultimately, it's about flexibility and the fact that you can use, whichever solution that you're working on currently, goes a long way.
Again, I guess this code pipeline generation is a one-step thing, right? It's just the first bootstrapping. Next time when you push the new code, it will automatically trigger the pipeline.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So this is the first and only time for your application that you'll have to run this.
Yeah.
So if you create another new application, I would suggest you'd want to have a separate pipeline for that new application, but not for every change that you do within the application. So what we'll do is, while this is happening, we'll just go and actually make a change and see how it will promote that change using code pipeline, and the fact that you don't necessarily have to do this again and again. I just wanted to quickly check. Yeah, no, that's okay. Nothing fancy here. If you go through the code pipeline YAML, you'll start to appreciate what this new feature is all about. just for CodePipline, that is. So you'll see that the whole stack is being auto-generated for you. You'll see the source here. The fact that you can, can get the information from your repository, your pipeline.
So this is Cloudformation template for the code pipeline.
Yeah, automatically generated for you.
Right.
So all of that, if you had to build a secure pipeline for your application, you wouldn't want to run and write all of these things by yourself. So that's where SAM pipelines would come in to help, run these things for you. So the whole thing is automatically generated. And the fact is that all of the build specs as well, like for each and every step, the build and package, the deployments, if there's a feature, the feature releases, integration tests, unit tests, all of that is basically bootstrapped for you. So you don't have to do much. I guess that's basically the power of it. So let me go through to CodePipline and see. Okay, so you can see that it's actually picked up my first commit and it's running through the changes. So it's actually taken my change from source. You'll see that it's already hooked into code commit. It's updating the pipeline, which in this situation, there's no changes to it. It's going through the build and package stage. So if you look at the detail section here, you'll see that AWS Code Build is actually running through the build spec, issuing the commands and actually starting building and packaging it. So you'll see all of these things are here for you. And you can go through all of these to work out where you're at if you need to. At this point in time, it's actually, installing the packages, updating it.
Robbie?
Yeah.
It's good that this is building and deploying it to respective environments, but I tend to run a SAM build and deploy from local. So would there be, if I deploy from local and then merge my code to master, would there be a conflict in terms of deployment? Will it detect that it's already been deployed? I hope the question is clear.
So I guess if you're deploying it manually and if you're deploying it locally, you'll have your specification set up already. Mm-hmm. So you had your stack called API, right? However, when we did the SAM pipeline creation, we called it different stack names. Yeah, so we called it SAM, API dev stack and API prod stack. Yeah. So if I go back to Cloudformation, if I can get this away, here we go. So you can see that the one that I manually did is API.
Yeah.
But the one that I'm deploying now will be called a different name. So this is a pipeline stack, which deployed the pipeline. But once it hits the deploy part, which is here, deploy test, it'll actually create a brand new stack. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, makes sense.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have a conflict as such.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I'm using the same account for this to deploy to test and to deploy to prod. But ultimately, if you're thinking about a multi-account architecture, you'd want to, deploy it into 2 different accounts. And you can do that via your name profiles. But for now, for this workshop, it's going to be deploying into the same account.
Yeah, that's also an interesting topic in itself, using different accounts for different environments. Yeah. Generally something that is recommended particularly in the enterprise
Yeah,
environment.
apps. Yeah, you would want to keep your non-production and your production in separate accounts just to minimize the blast radius, I would expect.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I'm just going through the deploy test stage at the moment, and you'll see that it's going through the updates, going through the whole 9 yards, gone through the build phase. So it's running the SAM deploy part. You can see it's actually created my, so going through the stack change set, it's saying, okay, I need to add all of these, just as what you did locally. It's doing it now using code build, code pipeline, and actually deploying the stack for you. So you can see that now I've got an API dev stack, which is separate to API.
Yep, I can see. Thanks, Robbie.
No worries. All right, so this is going through. Just give it a little bit more time and we'll just get the dev stacks output. You can either get it from here or you can get it from the Cloudformation stack as well. You can see it on your outputs. I can just click on this. And we've got our dev API now connected to CI/CD pipeline. So I guess the next step is to basically go and actually see the power of the CI/CD pipeline by going into your app.js and changing it basically, and see how this would go and do the deployment for you automatically. So I've made a quick change into my app.js. I'll just quickly check. So you can see that I'm just going to be making a quick change here. I'm just going a little Rambo here. So I just do a git push. Oh, I can't type today. And you can see that I've just pushed my code into code commit, and theoretically that should kick off code pipeline again. So if I go to code pipeline, look at my pipelines, it's already picked it up. So the commit message was a quick change, and you can see that it's actually pulled that information just as quickly as I push the changes upstream. So now it's going through the update pipeline. I'm not sure exactly which one. Which one was it? Not this one, it's this guy. So we'll give it a couple of minutes for this to go through. So you can see that actually it's deploying into production while going through the next stage here. So deploying to production, my initial commit is still underway. However, it's actually picked up my latest changes and it's going through the next phase of deployment as well.
Robbie, there's a question from Sitar. The question is, would it be possible to configure canary or blue-green deployments? If yes, where can we specify the option?
Yeah, absolutely. So with AWS SAM, you have the option to put in the details of a canary or a blue-green deployment. Let me quickly see if I can find the specification. So what will happen is that it'll actually create a code deploy, which will actually go in and do the canary release for you automatically. I'll just I'll bring that up while this is happening. Here we go. So there is a where is it? Here we go. Okay, so what you can do is you can set up the deployment preference for your Lambda function, and it'll do a canary. You can set a type, and there are some specific types that you can select, and which will basically do the canary 10% 10 minutes or 5% every 10 minutes. So there's a few options. Here we go. Yeah, so you can select whichever one. You can do an all at once if you needed to, which will deploy a code deploy, which will do the branching of it and then moving from your blue to green. Cool. And it makes it really, really easy to get started with this. Then you got the opportunity to do hooks as well. So you can have a little bit more control of what happens before the traffic hits and just after the traffic hits. So yeah, it's pretty powerful and pretty easy to use. All right, so hopefully this is going through. Build and package, it succeeded. Let's go back and check where things are at. So it's deploying to test. Hopefully not too long to go. So it's doing the latest deployment now. So in a little while, you'll see that this would have changed from Hello Melbourne Meetup to Hello CI/CD. And I didn't have to deploy anything. I didn't have to do a local deploy. I didn't have to do anything at all. All I did was make the changes and push the code into code commit. And it could be whichever Git repository that you need. It's updating progress and looks like the update is complete. So let's have a quick look. Here we go. Now you can see that it's changed the message to Hello CI/CD. The count is still working. That means I've got a serverless table, DynamoDB table underneath, and I just deployed that via CI/CD. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for today. Before anything, there's a cleanup section here. Please go through that and delete your stacks, delete your Cloud9 environment. I'm going to be doing this right after this workshop, just so that there's no charges coming through. We want to make sure that you guys don't necessarily have to pay any more than that you need to.
Hey Robbie, did you in the latest version of SAM CLI, does it support ARM yet? ARM for Lambda? Like this is the flag that you put in like architectures, but I'm not sure whether they updated it. So under the function, under properties, if you add that, you should be able to deploy that, and it should work. But I don't know whether SAM CLI supports that yet.
I'm not super sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I might have to get back to you on that one.
Put it in Cloud9 and push it up and see what happens.
Let's try it.
Yeah, let's try. Well, I would say it would work because it is being a superset of the Cloudformation.
The SAM CLI does a validation step, and a couple of weeks ago it didn't, but I saw a new version came out. I was just looking now. So I'm not quite sure if it's there or not. Like it depends which version of the SAM CLI you're on.
So I guess if you didn't support it and you still wanted to use it, you can actually create actual Lambda function if you really wanted to.
Yeah,
so
you can like the way I did it was I edited the SAM source code and changed it.
right.
But I'm not sure whether the SAM CLI is updated, like depending on which version. Did you update it to the most recent version?
I've only updated to 131.
I think it might
So
have
it
been
might not be.
139.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, so I guess it's ever
133.
growing. Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, for anybody that's interested, like I'm pretty sure, like I know the Cloudformation supports it, but I think SAM CLI like 2 weeks ago it didn't, but it looks like on the repository 12 days ago they updated it.
Nice.
So if you're using like Node or Python especially, it's very easy to move across to using ARM.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, up to 34% price performance improvement.
Nice one.
Yeah. It was,
Cool.
yeah, this is a great workshop, Robbie.
Sorry.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, it was great. Paul, is it cheaper to run on ARM?
Absolutely. Yes.
I think up to 34% price performance improvement. Like I think it's straight up 20% more. It was 20% cheaper. I think I'll double check that.
Nice. All the more reason to get the latest SAM version.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure. We're out of time now, aren't we, guys? Just.
You can go for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't think I can go for a minute. Probably need about half an hour. But I just wanted to, if anybody is curious about SAM Accelerate and want to see what the developer experience is going to be with SAM Accelerate, I would highly recommend going through some of the videos on YouTube. And see what this new feature is all about. That's all I wanted to say. Maybe another workshop on SAM Accelerate, guys, on another day. But I'm really excited about it. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Awesome.
Robbie,
yeah.
Maybe just close-up question. So there were people, including myself, using the older versions of SAM. How easy is to migrate the old, SAM templates, SAM versions, etc., to this new CI/CD as well as the Accelerate stuff? Is it like straightforward?
So the templates would most likely be the same. It's just the power. The power is basically coming from the SAM CLI itself. So you need to update the SAM CLI, but not necessarily the templates themselves. So if you wanted to quickly iterate through, and use SAM Accelerate or SAM pipelines, all you have to do is actually create, get the latest version of SAM CLI, which will create the templates for you. But existing template that you actually need to have to run your application, you don't necessarily need to change anything at all.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Robbie.
No worries. Let me just stop share now. Clean it up later. Any other questions?
To SR, like, yes, we will upload the recording to our YouTube channel. I'll send you the link to that. While I get that YouTube channel, Dahan, do you want to do there's 14 people left. Someone can get a free copy of anything of JetBrains license key. So just do another random generator between 1 and 14.
Yeah, I was talking to myself, Paul. You keep saying anybody can win this, but when my name comes up, you never give it to me. It's just not fair. It's like 14, is it? Do you see my screen?
We do.
All right, rolling it for 14.
Zen. So Zen, if you reach out on the Slack channel to myself or Dahan, we'll go ahead and send across that JetBrains voucher for you. And Tori also said earlier that he can't wear the t-shirt, so let's re-roll the t-shirt. So do it again from 1 to 14.
Oh, all right, so let me do that. 10.
10. So Rohan Ahmed, if you reach out to me or Dahan on Slack, we'll hook you up and we'll get your address and send you out a t-shirt, AWS t-shirt as well.
Excellent. On that note, please join to our Slack channel or invite your friends to join to our Slack channel. It is on the meetup page as well as on the chat of this meeting. Thank you, Paul, and of course, Robbie, for this great workshop. I've learned a lot, to be honest. I was doing my heads down, writing my code. I guess I missed some of these great enhancements to SAM, and I'm going to go ahead and then apply it to my existing project. So they're looking really good, particularly CI/CD. As I keep saying, I was writing bash scripts and changing the name of the variables and all those kind of things, stack names, etc. It was really painful. This is just going to clean up so much code now. Yep. I am sad, but at the same time, very happy. So it's a mixed feelings today. Thanks again, Robbie. Milan also is our organizer, so please reach out to Milan as well if you need anything or any help. Anything else we need to share, Paul, that I missed maybe? Again, if you're interested in putting a blog post on this, reach out to us as well. We will help you to edit the content, etc., and then we post it on our blog page with your name, of course. So in any way, if you have any ideas, as Paul mentioned in the beginning, and if you want to do a workshop or hands-on demo, please do reach out as well. And that's basically it. Paul, I guess it's up to you now.
Yeah. That's it. Thanks a lot, Robbie. I think, Robbie, you had a feedback gather. Did you want to gather feedback?
I do. It's a little late, and I actually super crazy for me. I actually forgot. Let me just quickly. How do I do this? Do I just put in the link, Paul?
Yeah, you can just paste in a link into the chat.
That would be fantastic. Let me just grab it here.
So today we had a first on SAM pipelines, but you also had a first of getting like Zoom bombed.
Was that the first time like so many came in?
It's the first time we've ever seen it happen.
Because we put it on
really interesting.
This time, like something different. You're just blocking them, is it? Like just one by one.
I'm not. What? I think people have lots of time in their hands. Who would think Zoom bombing is going to be a thing and put time into it to make it happen? Like,
I'm pretty confident that's all automated.
Oh my goodness. But someone needs to write that automation code, right? Like, why? Oh, I think so, Michael. You are right. Too many people are spending way too much time. I know.
Oh, well, they have to have some level of entertainment. I certainly got a kick out of it.
The chips guy was real fun. The way he started hitting chips.
Oh, was he not a regular person? I actually thought
that was a fake. That was a fake person. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, was it?
Wow!
You actually muted him, Paul, and then he unmuted himself.
Yeah, it was a fake person. It wasn't a real person, and that's what kept happening. And then I realized I could lock the meeting, and then no one else came.
Oh wow! Okay, interesting.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, definitely. There's a feedback. They can't open the link, Robbie, that you put. I'm opening it. Oh no, it's opening.
It's opening okay?
It's opening okay for me. Sorry, maybe you should click one more time.
Don't copy and paste because there's a dot at the end.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Just click it.
So the polls link is all okay without the dot, the full stop. Yeah.
It's always a
URL
trailing
doesn't-
or leading space, right? Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here. If there's anything, feel free to reach out. Would love to run a separate session on SAM Accelerate when it's actually preview. You can actually start using SAM Accelerate if you wanted to start installing it yourself. But yeah, it could be another time, another day. But yeah, anything serverless, I'm pretty open to have a conversation. Anything AWS, I'm super keen to have a conversation as well. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Robbie. That's great. So without shame, I'm putting everything extremely specifies on the form. So if you want anything, half of it is mine, okay? Just so you know.
Nice work. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie. That was great. And thanks, Paul, again for organizing, catching up with Robbie as well.
Thanks,
All right,
Paul.
man.
Thanks, Robbie. And thanks, Don. It's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks
See you.
everyone coming along. Special thanks to Robbie. Take care all and see you next month.
All right.
Bye.
Ciao, fails. Bye.
Bye-bye.